Okay, Ruby's question had to do with how would she be able to
Okay, there we go. Sorry.
how would she be able to make little X's or slash marks, hash marks added to her design, either for cutting, embossing, or drawing with a pen. And she didn't really care which tools to use, so I thought I would just show you how I might do it a couple different ways. Slash marks or cross marks. So first I thought I would go with a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, and show you how to do this with the Wrap Object to Path tool. Got to find where it went. There it is, way over there. And I'll put this on the green screen so you can see it. Now, it doesn't matter what size your shape is, or what shape it is for that matter. If it has rounded corners, the Wrap Object to Path works a little bit better than it does if it has straight sides. So I'll show you examples from both. Let's just make it an even, maybe 8 inches by 6, maybe 9 by 6.
You have the lock on.
Yeah? Oh. It doesn't really matter what size it is anyway, but I'll start with the little plus thing because it's a little different than the slash, and I'll show you that. To make the plus sign, I'm just going to use a square, SQ, double click, and make that square very skinny. And I'll use Control Shift and click to make another and rotate it. I'll type S to stack it. And then I'm going to make it smaller and click it till I get the rotational handles. Hold the Control and drag 3 times, I think. Let's see if that's pretty small. Now you can make your little design whatever size you want. What I'm going to do is send it to its own layer and make it black so that we can kind of see it. Now again, it can be whatever size you want, and I'm going to weld it so that it's all one piece. You could make it bigger or smaller, fatter, however you want. You could use an X from an alphabet letter if you wanted. I'm making mine thin so that if I want to use a pen with it, that the pen could draw around the outside lines of this. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that you'll end up drawing in around each little angle of this X here, and it would make a pretty solid X that would look just like it was filled in. If I wanted to make it thicker, I might have to do an inset shadow or outset shadow to draw lines a couple times, but this would do with an embossing tool or an engraving tool or a pen or even cut out. So what I want to do first is hold down the Control key and select my X and drag it over the shape until the cursor turns to a triangle, circle, and square. Release the mouse and release the Control key, and I get this Wrap Objects to Path menu. Now here what we're going to do is increase the count as many times as we need to fill up this shape. Now we can change the spacing to make it a little more even, and you notice around the corners they're kind of running into each other, and this is where you can kind of play with it. we can change the vertical alignment to determine how close those X's are going to be to the edge. So it really depends on what you want to do with it. And we can increase the spacing if we want to give a little more room around those corners. And as you add, you can add room here in this spacing to make a little more room as well. And when you can decrease the number of X's or increase them. And you can continue to adjust the spacing until you're happy with the spacing. Once you like the way it is, you click on Accept, and you can, at this point, you can change some if you don't like exactly the way where they're located. You can move them if there are extras or some that are running into each other. But and you can even get an idea of what they might look like when you draw with a tool. You could, if you were going to cut, you could click Join with Everything, and you could see the idea, what it might look like when it's cut. And so that's one way to do it. Now, I don't like the jumble in the corners, and I would probably work with that a little bit more to make it exactly the way I want. But when you have rounded edges, it works pretty well. But if you had a square, I think it's better to use the duplicate feature, which I'll show you now. I'll just use a square. And then drag it over here. We'll make it maybe yellow. And again, I'll make a little fatter X this time. I'm going to hold Control Shift and drag to get an extra one, and then just resize this down to where I want. Make it as skinny as it'll go. Maybe a little longer. Control Shift click to duplicate and weld. So I have another little plus sign. I'll drag it around and send it to its own layer and make it black. And I think I'll make it smaller. So the other way that I would do it, if I have corners like this and I don't want to worry about what will happen when I wrap it around, is I go to Edit and Duplicate, and I'll just use Duplicate, and I do as many rows as I need to do in order to cover the sides. And you can use the arrows, or you can type in an actual number, and you can use the spacing that you want. You could increase the spacing if you'd like them spaced out a little bit more. And then once you have these the way you want them, I think I'll space it maybe a little less. Once I have those, I'll click on Apply, select all of these, and join them. And I'll copy these, Control C, and then rotate this, and then Control Shift V, and rotate these. Control Shift V, and rotate them again. This little icon, the fourth from the left on the bottom, rotates 90 degrees, and Control Shift V pastes in place. So now I have all those X's in a nice organized pattern and ready to go. So these are a little thicker than these. I can use it as is, or if I want to join them, you can see how they might look when they're cut out like that. So then the other way is very similar if we're doing the slashes. I'll move that over. Again, we'll put a square here. I keep forgetting to move my cursor first. Now the other one had kind of a frame. To get a frame, I'm going to do Control Shift and click, and then just make this inside frame a little smaller, type S to stack them. And to make, the idea is to make some slashes that go all the way around the frame. Now if I make a slash in a similar manner as I did the other, I just click this, hold Control Shift click, and I'll just make a tiny slash. And to do the slash, I'm going to just resize the square, hold the Control key and drag so it's at an angle. And you can resize this according to your needs. Zoom in a little bit. Now, if you don't like how thick it is, you can actually make it thinner if you want. I should do it straight and not use these little handles, but I'm going to do this. There we go. I think I like to resize when they're up and down like this. I'm going to make this a little bit narrower, like a 0.05, and enter. That's better. And then maybe a little shorter, because I want it to fit in this around the frame. So now I'm going to rotate it. Holding the Control key, will rotate in 15-degree increments. So now I have that. I'm going to hold the Control key and drag, just like I did before, over the outer edge. And I want you to notice that the pattern goes the same direction all the way around, but then it doesn't stay in the same direction on the sides as it did on the top. So this wrap object to path, if that's the look you want, that might work. And you could adjust the spacing. I kind of like how that made an X down there at the bottom. You can play with spacing and then vertical alignment where you would want it to be positioned exactly. And again, play with spacing to make the pieces land where you want. But again, this isn't what the picture looked like with the sides being the opposite direction of the top and bottom. So I'm going to cancel that. And again, I'm going to go to what I did with the square, and that is just to duplicate one side at a time. So I go to Edit, Duplicate, and adjust these like I would want them to be, get as many as I need for. I think I need fewer. What I'm doing is trying to leave some space at the bottom, and you can change the spacing. I think that'll work, and then click Apply. Once you have one side, again, I just join them all together. I copy. I'm going to select everything, rotate it, and edit, paste in place. Oh. We'll do it again. Rotate. Edit, paste in place. And one more time. Edit, paste in place. Now what I can do, and I probably could have done this with the other, is just to mirror this the other way. So now they're all going in the same direction. And if you see some alignment problems here, I see that maybe this could go down a little bit more to line up with the bottom row. You can make little adjustments to those. So, and I'll show you here too. I think I'll move this over to line up with this side. If you find that the spacing like between here is a little bit more than here, what you can do is ungroup everything. And I really like this option. What I do is split to separate all those. I can take all of these pieces, right click, align and space, and horizontally space these so they'll all be perfectly evenly spaced here. So again, see there's extra space up here. I can take these, right click, align and space, and vertically space those so that they're now all even. And on these, I'm going to move this over so these line up. And again, you can move the first and last one to be where you want them to be. And then everything else will evenly space when you right click, align and space horizontally. And then this one as well. I'm going to type L to align these to the left. Make sure they're all lined up. Right click, align and space, and vertically. So now we have some good alignment. And if I want to make sure these corners are all aligned at the top, I type T. I'd like these to be at the bottom. I'll type B. These all align to the left. Type L. And these all align to the right. And now that looks pretty good. So I hope that answered Ruby's question. Do we have any additional questions?
Well, Julie,
yes.
That last one you were doing, you could also just duplicate it both vertical and horizontal, and then just take out the middle section. So then you don't have all the alignments and stuff to worry about. So if you just take one corner piece and then show them how you duplicate it and then take out all the center ones.
So I take a corner piece here and a corner piece here and take out all the rest. Is that what you're saying?
No, all you need is one piece. One corner piece.
Okay.
Yep. Now just duplicate that so it fills the box. Duplicate that little one so it fills the box.
Yeah, I thought about that today. So we can do, looks like about 18 all the way and 19. And yes, we could take out all the middle ones.
Take all the edge pieces and put them on. Oh, that's all right. Sorry.
There's always more than one way to do that. So when I select it all and type S, it stacks them. So that's another way. I thought of doing that earlier. So if you just select everything and type S, then you can get them all stacked evenly. So are there any other questions?
There's two questions here. Hang on, I've got to get back to them. For Julie's align in space, when Julie grouped, how does each group, vertical and horizontal, able to group together?
Okay, right now I have these all joined, but I can split them using the split icon at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if I wanted to respace these, right-click, align in space, spacing horizontally, they would be respaced according to where the first and last one are. Let's say I wanted to move this one out and do the same thing, right-click, align in space and space horizontally. Now they're all equally spaced here. Another way to change that spacing is hold the Control key when they're split like this and drag, and then they will keep equal spacing as you drag. If you hold the Control key. So that's another way to do it. Now once I have them where I want them, I can click on the Join 10th icon from the left, and it joins them all together. Is that what you meant?
Well, while we're waiting for an answer for that, Ruby says, thank you, Julie.
Well, you're welcome. I like to see your designs after you get them done. You could do this on vellum and get a really nice effect, a pergamano effect with embossing. If you use an embossing tool or even a white pen and draw these lines. So what I would do is I would put these on their own layer, and so the squares would go on their own layer, and I would hide those when I want to do the embossing, and I would hide everything. Actually go to the eyeball down on the right corner and hide all except for these lines, and I would do these first with my embossing tool or a white pen on my paper or foil, and after those were done, then I would hide that eye, and I would then cut my frame around those embossed things, and it would give you the effect of embossing. And if I join these together using the join, Control plus J, you get kind of a nice effect that way. Any more questions?
Yeah, Lee says no, that was the horizontal group. She wants to know, when you do the vertical group, how do you capture the top slash?
Oh, okay. Well, first I'm going to split them all. They all have to be, well, I have to break them because they're now inside another shape. But let's say once they're broken, I can select whichever ones that I want. So I could select just the ones that were on the side, or I could select all of them and then right-click, align in space. So it'll take the top one of your selection and the bottom one and make sure that everything in between is evenly spaced. So you could, let's say that I wanted to move this top one here and this bottom one here. I'm going to get all of these, and I want them spaced evenly, maybe for a different size project. Right-click, align in space, space, and vertically, and now I get them all evenly spaced there. I don't know if that was your question. Did that answer it? Again, I can hold Control and move them all back evenly while I drag, and the spacing adjusts. Then when I want them all together, I could join them. But let's say this isn't lining up with this at the bottom. I would grab this, In order to align them first to the bottom, I type B. And now I can align in space. Just in case they aren't quite even, I can make sure by doing the horizontal spacing. Once I'm happy with them, then I'll join them so that they don't accidentally get moved around. But they would cut the same whether they're joined or not. Did I answer your question, Lee?
Julie Lee wants to know now, how would you fix the top left-hand corner? It's slightly out.
This top left-hand
moved
corner,
it over when you...
I select them all and I type L. And it aligns them all to the left. And here, I would type R to align them to the right. And on the top, I type T to align them all to the top. And down here on the bottom, I would type B to align them to the bottom. And if the spacing looks off again, I don't have any problem with, again, making sure that alignment is perfect. I really get bugged when they're not. So again, I can select them all, align in space, space, and horizontal. They look, you know, these corner ones really look smaller to me, but we know they're the same. We use the same exact shape. It's optical illusion on how they're all aligned. So those alignment tools of right-clicking and align in space, those are really handy. And there are shortcuts for these. So the spacing, to adjust spacing, you can use that left bracket for vertical and the right bracket for horizontal, and it'll automatically space those for you without having to go to this menu. So any other questions?
No other questions. Lee says thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks, Ruby, for your question.